Good morning, gentlemen. How are we doing today?
Morning.
Good morning. What's going on?
Well, living that wonderful, wonderful dream here in the Pacific Northwest. Got my nice cup of coffee. Pumped to talk a little bit about Airbnb and what happened last week. It's been a crazy couple 7 days that since we last seen each other.
Yeah, it's been an interesting roller coaster ride.
Up and down. It went up a lot, and then, I just checked it. It went down quite a lot, so I'm just curious what's going to happen in the coming months.
Yes, very true. And before we actually really get started, I do want to make one shout out. I did a little staycation this weekend, and it was for a friend's birthday. And when I checked into my hotel room, I had this lovely sign, and I had no idea how they got this information or found out, but it says, "Welcome, Will, from Slick Talk, the hospitality podcast." I should have gone down and been like, "Hey, there's Good Morning Hospitality on there too," but I'm not going to complain because that was such an awesome surprise, and we had great hospitality and service just from the staff, and it was great. So shout out to Angel of the Wind Casino here in Washington State for just the overall amazing experience. It was really cool. So yeah, just had to give that little shout out. Figured might as well before instead of just blasting it on Facebook. It was great. How was your guys' weekend?
Right? It's those little touches.
Exactly.
Right? It's super cool. So
the whole staff.
And that's what a lot of hotels or even properties forgetting, right? This is a small favor which you give. Then I mentioning them. It's like so important to keep this relationship and get those customers excited. No, cool.
Yeah, no, it was great. And the whole staff signed it. I asked the front desk lady. She said, I think their supervisor or manager was a fan of the show and recognized the name on the check-ins of the day or something like that. And it was like, all right, that's pretty cool. Like, I was flattered. I was like, damn, you guys are making me look way cooler than I am.
But they didn't ask you for a signature. So wow, it's the real Will Slickers. Can I get a signature from you or no?
I never saw him. No. Other than that, I was in the casino. I was having fun. After that, I'm down $25.
Okay. That's a big win.
Yeah, it's my IPO money.
Leaving a casino only down $25 is a big win.
Yeah, no, seriously. I was up, and then I was playing a lot of roulette, and I was getting a little too confident, and then the guy next to me was just crushing it too. So it was a good time though. I had a lot of fun. But I think you guys got some fun stuff going on. So let's hear from you guys. What's been going on this last week? Obviously, we're going to talk about the IPO, kind of like the highlight of the episode, but just kind of want to hear maybe some bid eruption or noise aware alerts. What's going on?
We're going to talk about it, right? And what is happening. A lot of education part. So that's why I'll just address this also in the bid eruption report. You can see I was teaching and talking in some schools, but I will keep this for in a second in the bid eruption report.
Awesome. How about you, Golden?
It was exciting. An interesting week. Yeah, a lot of really cool things happened. Not many of which I can talk about yet, but there's some really cool partnerships and pilots and things going on that we that all seemed to come to fruition last week.
That's good. Good way to start ending the 2020 with a bow and walking right into 2021.
Now everything finishing, right? Just the last days now, working on the last plans for 2021. I just remember last year we did similar, but I think none of those plans were actually used this year. So let's hope the plans we have for next year a bit more utilization.
Yeah, fingers crossed. Literally.
Yeah, I was halfway expecting December to be pretty slow, but it's been the exact opposite. Like last week was just wall to wall every single day. So maybe the holidays will come soon and we'll have a welcome break. But until then, it's been 100 miles an hour.
Yeah, well, that's a good thing to say.
Kilometers an hour, Michael.
There you go.
It is quick.
Awesome. Well, let's kick it off with the bid eruption report.
Good morning. And normally I'm starting with the with the startup of the week, but this time I start opposite. I'm starting with events. Actually, last week I was teaching. I gave a guest lecture on the Hotel.School The Hague. It was super cool, actually. So I was remotely. I saw them all sitting next to each other and told them more about a bit room, the journey. Amazing questions. They were super engaged and had amazing questions, and they were really well prepared. Some compliments as well to them. Was nice to do. And actually, tomorrow I'm speaking again for the BSBI, the Berlin Business School. Will be a nice session as well. We're talking about innovation, but also post-COVID, etc. So I'm looking forward to it. I think it will be broadcast on 17 universities in the same time, so pretty large audience. So super excited for this. And the start of the week, we just mentioned 2 educational parts. I think it's really nice to mention Hotel.School. Actually, it's a great startup, which actually is a Swiss-based online hotel school, which actually focusing on micro-based learning lessons. I met them. They're doing something really cool. It's led by Patricia. She's a great know-how how to develop this. She has a huge experience in there as well. And super cool what they're doing, actually. And if you see what they're up to, what I really like actually is they're really making education from nowadays. So they launched also the vacation rental collection. So I know many of you are listening, they're into vacation rental as well. And I think that's super important to be addressed, as for years, of course, we all know the typical hospitality education. Things moved away now. You see in the pandemic, people not travel to normal schools. You see people want to upskill, reskill. So actually they're addressing this market really, really well. I did one of the courses by myself. Really interesting to see actually how they're doing this. They're making it also fun, but also really interactive. And I can recommend Hotel.School to start one of the courses or the collection and of their Swiss Master Hotel program. So yeah, this is the startup of the week. I think we go more into education next week. Golden already said it's like it was mentioned many times in the prospectus of Aribnb, as I heard from him, and I think education is going to be more and more important in different areas in hospitality. So my startup of the week is Hotel.School. I think next week we're going to talk more about hospitality education. Thank you.
I could really go for a donut right now, Grandma, but we'll wait till after the show. I think the news of last week was entirely dominated by Airbnb's IPO. But that said, there were a couple other events going on catered towards the short-term rentals. Flex Conference, which is put on by Joshua Tree out in California. It's a fantastic event that is basically what we covered on the very first show, the flexible short-term rental and long-term multifamily environments. Can't wait for that to be in person next year, as hopefully most events will be. And then the other event that went on last week was Skift, specifically around short-term rentals and bringing in some of the best minds of the industry. I think the takeaways from both are short-term rentals are quite bright in the future, but in the short term, doing all of these things remote is challenging, and it's not quite the same feel. So another important or interesting thing, I read the Airbnb prospectus last week, and it's quite a beast. It was like 499 pages, but something that they mentioned time and time again, and this is consistent with their brand for many, many years, but I believe trust was mentioned 66 times. And that's what an online platform is all about. It has to have trust from all sides. and not just the direct stakeholders, but you have to have trust from the communities, from the neighbors, from the restaurants and businesses nearby to ensure the long-term success of the industry. So it was really cool to see how many times they brought up trust. And obviously people that read the prospectus liked what they saw and drove up that opening price.
Yeah, I was gonna say
you bought some gold in.
Yeah. I was part of the host group that was allowed, I guess, access to buy pre-IPO shares because of a rental that I've listed through the platform a number of times. And luckily I went through the hurdles that they made you go through to get them. So pretty pleased with the outcome.
Did you double?
I more than doubled and I walked away.
The copies are yours. Okay, well done.
Yeah.
But it's insane. But did you see what is happening? Of course, there's speculation, everything, and then actually, if you see that they passed this 100 billion valuation, it's insane.
They overpassed Booking.com.
Yeah, I just saw. Actually, just check it before the episode. I think they went down today with like 7% or something. So I'm just curious, like at the end of this, those days, who's going to be higher evaluated. But
yeah, it's not unheard of for brands to trade at extreme multiples compared to their competition if the belief long term is super, super high. Tesla is a perfect example. Tesla trades at an insane multiple that's larger than all of the US automakers combined. And that's essentially what Airbnb was listed at. They were listed at a price higher than all of the major hotel brands combined, and also a price equivalent to Booking.com, which has an equal amount of short-term rentals, but they also have 20 million hotel rooms, not to mention flights and OpenTable and a number of other avenues. And these are all things that Airbnb has talked about building: the flights program, obviously the hotel tonight acquisition, and getting more into hotels. But I think the jury's still out on, will they be an OTA as OTAs have previously existed, or are they going to go a different route? I think a lot of their focus in the past is owning the trip from start to finish. Experience is a very big passion project of the founding team, but I mean they brought on the head of, I think, Virgin Transportation to spin up their flights division, but that never got off the ground, no pun intended. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see long term how they can live up to, I don't know what the valuation is today, maybe 70 or 80 billion. But we'll find out.
it's down now 9%. I just checked it, last minute information. So, but I'm curious indeed how long they can keep this valuation, what went down already, but also, of course, how to stay hot, right? I think it's really important as a brand. You just, especially when you went IPO, you're listed, how to become attractive, right? For buying and etc. So I'm really curious, where is their growth? What they're gonna do? I mentioned last week, I don't think they can grow much in inventory. I think this will be limited, maybe a little bit, but it will not be a lot. But I'm really curious, how can I get extra revenue streams? Indeed, is it flights? Not sure. I think personally, but yeah, I don't work for them, so I don't have the insights. But I think it makes more sense if you really go into this experience part, maybe in reservations and stays of restaurant reservations. Those actually when you're on location, right? Not pre-arrival, but really since the arrival, and spend your journey, your money there. That's what I think. But it's, for me, makes more sense. But indeed, what you said, it is surprisingly, as for example, Booking. Or Priceline Booking now, Booking Holding nowadays, right? What they're owning, the OpenTable, and I think 5-6 other brands, or maybe even more. So they have much more, right? Indeed, also the whole connectivity, hotel agreements, and everything. And of course, when you're looking at the apartments, there's much more flexibility, and you don't. If you see, Booking has quite strict contracts, of course. So this is something we as Bidroom fighting for every day. You see, of course, they have an allotments. They have pretty strict contracts, which has, I think, value as well. But looking at Airbnb, it's pretty flexible. You can host an Airbnb, but if you want to stop tomorrow, you can host it somewhere else. So they have not this sustainable, the contracts and everything in place. So I'm really curious what's going to happen the coming years. I think they did something amazingly what they built up, a clever way, right timing, right team, etc. And I'm really curious what's going to happen the coming years.
Yeah, I mean, I think the brand that owns the traveler is the brand that wins. You can have all of the inventory in the world, but if you don't have the bookings, then you're in trouble. And the ability to turn on and off units in short-term rentals is both a curse, but it's also a blessing. And for me, for example, I live in a college town, and college football is absolutely insane. The stadium in my town holds almost 90,000 people, but the town itself is only 60,000. And when people come for those 8 football games in the fall, I rent out my primary residence for like $200-300 per bedroom per night. And, the other however many weeks, 54 weeks, public math, who knows, is like the price I could get per night is awful. But
they have more weeks in the US and in Europe?
44 weeks. 44 weeks. But the supply and demand, like that's one of the benefits of short-term rentals and the Airbnb platform is you can turn it on for 1 week for Super Bowl, whenever Super Bowl comes to town, and everybody can charge $1,000 a night and they'll get it. You can't do that with hotels. And historically, I guess people were just driving, 30, 45 minutes, an hour out of town to get their place. But now they can be in town, part of the whole experience from start to finish. And is that the primary revenue driver? No, but I think that's also opens up the doors to travelers. Focusrite did a study. I guess they do the study every year, but only like 34% of people who travel have used vacation rentals or short-term rentals.
Well, I think what you said is interesting, right? Around events and stuff, you see what you mentioned, Super Bowl, you see, and when the F1, Formula One, which is not popular in the US, but it is in Europe. If the F1, for example, is in Monaco, the whole Monaco, everybody has a house, they're renting this out on Airbnb for sick prices, and probably their rent is paid back. For those weekends, it's paying back the whole rent of the rest of the year. So this is, I think, a strong advantage, of course, of Airbnb. You can occasionally say, okay, now I want to rent it out. And you're not forced with the contract. So that has its benefit, but also in this case is the flexibility. So I think this is a strong advantage. My concern is they're really moving away from this and go really in hotels. What will be the differentiator between, for example, Booking or Expedia or Bedroom? I'm really curious. Is like I always said, be good in one thing, but be the best. And I'm really curious if they really go to different verticals, etc. What will be the impact? And of course, they have to keep delivering, but that also could be a danger.
Yeah,
go ahead.
They've had a little bit of ADD in the past on chasing down flights or chasing down hotels or chasing down developing a pod for your backyard or an ADU, right? I think Wall Street will keep them on a path to own the projects that they want to invest in and actually develop them fully. But that's a good thing. I mean, I would love to have a pod ADU in my backyard that I could rent out for games or for events or graduation or things like that. But then, it becomes my office or whatever in the excess time. Like, I think that could be an interesting way to add significantly more units, but still have a pretty cool and unique feel.
Yeah, I think also the connectivity, the way it's working, right? We just talked about it last week already. I spoke with Sam Schenk, the founder of Hotels Night in February, in their office in San Francisco, their Airbnb office. And also what they mentioned, okay, they're looking still at the hotel inventory, but still, they're massive, right, Airbnb. But if you go to whole contracting, their connectivity and everything, and it's also the association as a hotel chain, right? Do you want to be associated when you have a hotel chain? Do you want to be on an Airbnb platform or on an apartment platform, vacation rental platform? So it's also, I think this is still, as you're mentioning, also the brand and the image. I think it's really important because still, I think a lot of hotels say, yeah, but if I offered them there, they were disrupting my industry. They were destroying my industries. This is still, a lot of hotels are pretty against Airbnbs, right? Then are you going to change it and offer your property or offer your hotel on this platform? But for years, we're against. So I'm really curious also, what will be the adoption if the hotel says, okay, now want to push my maybe a bit more now because they're empty. But I'm curious if hotels are really open to put their inventory on Airbnb, maybe lose the control then on them because they lost the control to the other guys. I'm really curious also what is the perspective from the hotel side, not only from Airbnb, but also on the other side.
I personally think the answer is yes. They absolutely will, because you're going to list your place where you can find travelers. And I guess the bigger question is, does Airbnb want to work with Marriott and IHG and Hilton and Accor, like all these big brands? Because it feels like they care much more about a unique experience, maybe more of a boutique hotel style than the traditional big box brands. So I think, follow the money. If Airbnb is able to drive hotel bookings, then hotels will list. If they can't drive it, then there's no point in Airbnb doing that. And quite frankly, as a traveler, I prefer the separation. Like, I know when I want to book a hotel and I know when I want to book a short-term rental. So I like being able to go to this site for that and that site for this. But that's certainly my own view, and probably not that of everybody.
Well, if you're looking at the model, of course, Airbnb works, right? Also the pricing strategy. If you call Marriott and they have the price strategy to every booking platform, we offer the same rates. So, but on the other hand, then of course you also have your fee on the side of the traveler, which you might then waive in this case. I'm really curious, what is the competitive advantage for an Airbnb? And it could hurt a bit the OT of the brand by itself, right? I'm really curious, and you see the Marriotts or the chains are using Booking Expedia to get, of course, acquire customers, but they do everything from that moment to make this customer loyal to the brand. So I'm really curious, like, if they will double them, if the price strategy is differently. I don't think so, because some of them are pretty strict on their pricing. Second of all, of course, do they want to give the loyalty away to another platform again? When they do everything to drive direct, right? Especially now. So I'm really curious, like, if they will go into hotels. I think they were experimenting indeed by buying Hotels Night. I was really curious, like last week I was deep diving with the Hotels Night. I go, well, it's the inventory, because we've been growing our inventory. Do we want to have X numbers of properties similar like Booking.com, or do we want to become, with a smaller group of hotels, more created, have the best price and best benefits? But it's interesting to deep dive when you see the Hotels Night, for example. They had 50,000 properties, and that's it. 50,000 hotels. I was really curious, actually, what was the total inventory. So I was surprised. Okay, they actually narrowed it down. Okay, we're focusing on specific travelers. We have only 50,000 properties created. We have the best price and pretty last-minute bookings. And the same Airbnb has their focus. We have vacation rental, apartments, and everything. This is very good in. I'm really curious if they say, no, we're stepping away. We go also in what you said, maybe into flights, or we go into hotels. We're going into tourist activity to do a bit. I think this is still pretty local and everything. Yes, could be. But I think when you're stepping too away from your identity or your company culture and everything you stand for, I'm really curious. I think then this moment could be another one who's really good in one thing, which could be the vacation rental again, who could stand up. So let's see. But again, I would love to see where we're standing in 10 years from now, because 10 years ago, they were so small. It was amazing to see. If you see their first pitch deck, you should just do it. If one of the listeners, just Google pitch deck Airbnb, or even it was their full name at that time, it's amazing. And then if this turned into a $100 billion company, Well, it's well done, right? It is like, I think all of us would say would be nice if it would be mine. I started something differently, so hopefully you're coming in the same stage. Even for half, I would do it, but it's like, yeah, we just all. It is impressive what they achieved, right? It's like compliment for those guys, and everybody who's disrupting something and taking this journey and starting this adventure. I've got full respect for it.
Well, we see like Accor even launched apartments and villas, and so we're seeing more hotels jump into the space, like Marriott Home and Villas and all these other things. And it's like, well, they're good, and I think we're going to see a lot more people get into the space, especially from the hotel side. But is it too late? Is the real question. I don't think so, but I think they're going to need a big push when it comes to PR and really getting that user experience. Like for me, because like I'm gold member, like I'm not obviously I'm not a platinum. I don't travel 100%.
Yeah, but you're famous. Well, they know you everywhere, so it is different.
Oh, that's a small little hotel in my hometown. No, but like I'm a gold member on Marriott, and I would love to use the Home and Villa program, but it's not like 100% user experience friendly yet. I love the guys and the whole team. Like we all know kind of somebody in that space, but getting to the point of like Airbnb's booking is really simple. And, as hotels are getting into this, they're going to have to really compete with that. But the big thing that we always talk about, like with vacation rentals, and we're going to see, I think, come up a lot is I'm worried, like we all know the stocks of this company are going to be adjusted and fluctuated with the news. So the next shooting or COVID party or who knows what the hell happens at an Airbnb property specifically that was booked by that platform or on that platform, that's going to be, they're held to a higher standard now in my eyes. It's not like they weren't before, but they're publicly traded. They're, they have more people to answer to. Yeah. So I think seeing the regulation side of things is going to be.
Yeah, it's a really good point. I mean, another piece in their prospectus was no single market was more than 2% of their revenues. But that said, regulation spreads like wildfire, and no city, every city wants to copy someone else. They don't want to come up with their own. They just want to follow what some other city's doing. And I can tell you firsthand, I've spoken with more cities in the past 3 months as a result of a lot of these COVID house parties than I had spoken to in my first 3 years of NoiseAware. They're reaching out, asking like, how do we control these parties? We have so many neighbor issues and we want to keep short-term rentals around, but we can't if it continues like this. Yeah. And so luckily there's something out there that exists to help with that. Shameless plug. Yeah. But I mean, to your point, like it doesn't take many bad news presses to sway public opinion, and it is a threat. I think Google or Amazon or Facebook getting into short-term rentals could be a threat, but public policy and perception is just as big of a threat.
I think the government, if you're looking now, a lot of hotels have difficulties, right? I will not be surprised, but let's see that some governments say, okay, we're just helping the hotels because they're struggling for the last year. Just the easy way to help them, because otherwise we just have to help them differently. Just make sure they get their business back quicker. What could they do to give their business back quicker? Which closing Airbnbs, right? So I will not be surprised if a few countries, okay, we're going to help, because you see the same in the Netherlands, for example. I saw last week an interview with the foundation for hotel owners, and they're struggling. They're closed for a while and everything. They have a really difficult period. And if this, okay, normally the tourism is spread by Airbnbs and hotels. If one part is fed away, for example, the other 50%, which normally goes to the Airbnbs, goes to the hotels, means the hotels are filled up much quicker. So could be, I don't know, that the government's deciding, okay, we're just blocking Airbnbs because it's just individuals. Nobody gets actually hurt so badly, but it helped the hoteliers. So, and if this was spreading around in 1 or 2 countries or cities starting with this, it could impact a lot.
Except that the CDC came out and said short-term rentals are safer than hotels. And I think governments follow the trending news of Corona like it's the Bible. And that for that reason alone, I just don't see it. I mean, the only place that I know that banned short-term rentals and allowed hotels during Corona was Miami. And that was because Miami was having so many house party problems. People go to Miami to party. It's just in the blood. It's in their nature. And if you can't go to a nightclub or you can't go to a strip club or whatever, those activities are being driven into rentals. So I think, well, the jury's out on how regulators will address short-term rentals. But there's places that have never had this problem before, and they're having this problem. So that's the interesting part. Like Miami's always kind of had the battle. New York, LA, Paris, Amsterdam, they've always had that battle. What's going to be interesting is Hilton Head or Blue Ridge or various smaller traditionally vacation rental towns, how regulation is going to move forward in those markets, because they're having more problems now than ever.
Yeah. Well, I'm kind of curious, like you're bringing up like this is a good point. Miami is a place for parties. Like obviously I think we've all kind of been guilty of maybe wanting to go somewhere like that. But like when I'm looking at my home island, like we grow up in this like small little community on in the island county, like near a little bit north of Seattle, and the vacation rental market here is pretty significant. There's one hotel. It's not a successful hotel in the area. It's it was ran by offsite owners who just kind of wanted the cash flow and didn't really do much with it. So the vacation rental market though is huge, but the parties are 0 to none. Like it's an older community. It's different type of guest and traveler. So I'm guessing like maybe like the regulations to see how they change and the benefit of like the communities being against regulations in the sense of like we are okay doing the way we are. Obviously, we should put some safeguards in place for like what if, but to see the flip side, like the cities or the counties or states that are struggling with bad operations and bad guests versus the ones that are actually thriving with good travelers, good operators, good quality properties, stuff like that.
I think this will change. I think it will become how you see the shift in vacation rental. I think this become more and more professional. I think there where you see the change the coming years. You mentioned, for example, better operation. We about next week for education, for example, and you will see more that, like for example, I just mentioned Hotel.School, how they're doing for education in vacation rental, and I think this will be really, really important. That whole vacation rental, they still have this image, right? It's could be unprofessional. It's like one guy just renting out some rooms and that's it. I think when it become even more mainstream, more professional, I think it also attract a different audience. Really curious if the way of operation, the way of their promoting, the way of direct bookings, the way of a lot of different things actually. And I just mentioned the example in education, so for sure follow next week. I'm really curious how this will develop in the vacation rental. And of course, you see that the hotel industry learned a lot this year. You see that people following hotel education, they're really like they're working different fields, right? The way of because they know how to communicate with people, etc. I think this is something with still maybe some homeowners or some Airbnb host could learn. And I think when this become more professional, and of course you got a super host and everything, but did more professional using tooling for noise reduction. And I know some guy who's doing something in this field. But if you go more into more professionality stuff, and also more, which you mentioned just now, this hospitality thing, right? If hosts wouldn't really know how to connect with the guest, his personal message, know that the host, that they feel safe, security, and this is still, of course, with the hotels. You always have this feeling, hotel is safe. It's part of a brand, should be okay. I think will this develop more into the vacation rental industry, and when it becomes more professional, I think this can grow much more. But I'm really curious what will happen in this field. We talked about, like, I think one of the first episodes, right? More the brands, for example, brands in apart hotels and everything. So people go back to one of the first episodes. I really think I see a huge advantage. So more professional, more branded, etc. The coming years.
Yeah, I think you nailed it right there at the end. It's the brands that are going to lead the way, not only in education, but in standards and guest expectations. Like, you can't say all Airbnbs are the same because they're not. But you can say all Marriott homes and villas have a certain level of quality. And that's what's missing across or broadly across short-term rentals. Branding that you know what you're getting into. And there's companies that are doing that, but the more that hotels get involved in, the better.
Of course, couldn't agree more. And shout out to Hotel.School who commented on the video. You're welcome, guys. You're killing it. Keep it up. No, that's, you hit it right on the head, and I couldn't agree more. So I'm excited for next week. It's going to be good. I think that's a good segue for like just promoting obviously what we're going to talk about. Just obviously education, professionalism, the rise of standards. Michael Golden, you said it. You took I think you finished it really nice. It's going to lead the way. Brand and professionalism is going to be what leads the industry into the real future of vacation rentals. So excited to talk about that next week.
Perfect. Don't